Welcome to Tea and Games. Whoa, another hot mug of tea. Fogged my glasses again. This is Yorkshire Gold today. Good British breakfast tea. So, this past weekend was Easter weekend. We didn't get quite as many games played as I had expected, but we made a good run at some of them. The Easter Bunny kind of kicked our butt just a little bit. We played, welcome to the spring theme or the Easter theme, depending upon how you look at it. You're trying to get eggs. You may notice this says dry erase on it. This has dry erase boards for 4 seasonal themes. Winter, spring, which has eggs. Winter is Christmas lights or just lights, and spring eggs. Summer is ice cream truck thing, and fall is Halloween. I think you're picking up candy. We got this right after Halloween, so we haven't done the Halloween one yet, but we've done winter, and now we've done spring. And let me tell you, spring was tough. I mean, really tough. I'm going to put some inserts in here so that you can, assuming that my video editor will allow me to put the inserts in. That's just a whole nother thing. Anyhow, you have 3 cards which are for the third of the city plans or suburb plans that you're doing. For the egg thing, one of them has, I believe, you have to have estates of a certain size which have no eggs. The other one has, you have to have estates of a certain size with 3 eggs, and the other one you have to have collected all the eggs on the bottom street, which you can only collect eggs in a very specific sort of way. The little blocks that have 2 eggs on them, those 2 eggs, both of them, can only be collected if you put an 8 or a 10 in that square, circling the eggs with the 0 or with the loops on the 8. And that was just crazy making. Mind you, we didn't do all that well on the other one where we were collecting eggs. We didn't do the card, we played 2 games. We didn't do the card where you had to have no eggs because, I mean, it was Easter. It seemed like we should be getting eggs. So we didn't do that one. But look at the board that we've got here. And take a good long look at the board. See how the eggs are distributed. Bear in mind that these things have got to be in numerical order, and the restrictions for doubling up and making fences and that kind of thing. And then look at the instructions here. See the cards. These are the 3 choices you've got if you're doing this board. And those are the explanations for how those cards work. Feel free to pause the video and peruse it. Got it in mind now? Okay, now let's look at the board that you're working on here. And you see what I mean? This is tough. I mean, it is really tough. I mean, this is just kind of a good way to get beat up by the Easter Bunny. But we do enjoy these seasonal expansions. We do not have the non-seasonal expanses. I think one of them is Doomsday, and the other one is, I don't know, some other kind of apocalypse. We don't have those. We just have the seasonal ones. And the seasonal dry erase ones come with 4 boards for each season. And we got those from Barnes & Noble. They were a Barnes & Noble exclusive. And may still be a Barnes & Noble exclusive, because this was only like last fall that we got them. And the backside of the seasonal dry erase things are just the regular base game. So that means you could play up to 4 for each season. And we don't play the seasonal stuff all that much, you know, just as the seasons come around. And it's usually just the two of us, but we can play up to 4. But for the base game, having the dry erase for the seasonals means that we could play up to 16 with the dry erase ones. You'd have to lay in a few more dry erase markers in the box. It comes with 4. But yeah, that's easily doable. If you really like Welcome To and you want to add some expansions, the dry erase is kind of nice, and it does actually erase well, unlike my Scrabble board up here, which does not erase as well as one would want. We also got in another episode of MicroMacro Crime City, which we utterly failed at because, and this is the second time that this has happened, we have had where essentially the person was shot and the shooter is like way far away and there's no way anybody could have made that shot. You know, it's like there's buildings and all kinds of stuff in between them and the victim. So, I mean, and we looked and we could not find, for that last card, we couldn't find the killer. So we failed. And there was another one where we found it, but we actually thought it wasn't the right one, because there was no way that they could have killed anybody from that position. So there's been 2 where we basically felt like their solution was completely bogus. But otherwise, they've been going pretty well. And we have 2 or 3 left. I think 3 left maybe at this point. And we got in our first play of our own copy of Splendor, which we really enjoyed playing Splendor at our local game store. But here's the interesting thing. What we played this past weekend was actually different from what we played that first time at the store. Because at the store, the person who was showing us how to play, not a store employee, but just another gamer there, set aside the gold coins, which you get when you reserve cards. The gold and the is part of a reserving card mechanism. So we didn't reserve any cards in that first game. And we didn't have any Joker wild card gold coins to make up for some of our gems, which changed the game, I think, a little bit, because there was just a lot of complaining about, oh, you got the card I wanted. You know, and that happened a bit less now that we had that mechanism to reserve cards, but it's still a really easy entry-level game and very, very enjoyable to play. So that was kind of our lighter stuff for the weekend. The heavier stuff didn't go nearly as well. Bearing in mind that we got beat up by the Easter Bunny, the heavier stuff still did not go all that well. So, of the games that we have gotten this year that we have not played, we have Cribbage and, more recently, Robinson Crusoe. Because I wanted it. And our local game store had it on sale. And so I couldn't resist with it on sale. I just thought, well, I'll just go ahead and get it. I mean, I've just been kind of fascinated by this game. I think that it sounds really interesting. And I've watched videos and read stuff and everything. And I know it's hard. I know we're all gonna die. I do most of the research on the games that we play. Sometimes running videos for Robert if there's something that I kind of want his buy-in on before I make a decision on it. But this one is kind of pretty much all me, or so I thought. We'll get to that in just a second. We took a run at Cribbage first, before we took a run at Robinson Crusoe. And it did not go well. We ran a whole bunch of how to play videos, including Monique and Naveen's video using Beth Sobel's River and Stone deck of cards. And they're very good at explaining things, and yet at the end of it, Robert and I were still going, but what about, and what happened there? And I don't quite get that. So I kind of think that it's just us because we watched a bunch of cribbage videos. Actually, we spent as much time watching how to play games videos this weekend as we did playing games because, I mean, these games are fairly short. We played 2 of Welcome to, 1 of MicroMacro, and 1 of Splendor. Why do I keep calling it Splendor? Splendor. Anyhow, so we watched a bunch of games on how to play cribbage, and there was always like some point at which we're going like, okay, I get that, and I get that, I don't get that, and what happens here? But yes, I understand if this, then this, but what about if that? Then what? And, you know, it just seemed like we always, every video, it's like it maybe answered one question, but then it raised a whole bunch more that we couldn't answer. And it just, I don't know if cribbage is the game for us, but it certainly wasn't the game for us this weekend. We tried to play 1 round of it and could not even make it through 1 round without going like, no, and I don't think we were supposed to do that, and this is just all messed up, and it was an incredibly frustrating experience. I think actually in order to be able to learn how to play cribbage, what we need to do is sit down with an experienced cribbage player and go through the game with them. And that way, no matter what comes up, they'll be able to answer our questions as we go. And boy, did we have a lot of questions. And I even had a scoring crib sheet, and no, that did not help. I mean, if we knew what we were doing, I'm sure a crib sheet would be great. You know, a scoring sheet that tells you all the myriad ways that you can score. But I mean, we had no idea what we were doing, or only just the very vaguest of ideas, and that was after watching more videos than I can count. But we may need Rodney Smith to explain cribbage to us or something like that because we just did not get it. Let me see. I'm looking at my notebook here. Yeah, I think I've covered everything except for Robinson Crusoe, which we did not play. We got it out of the box, or rather I got it out of the box. I laid some stuff out on the table. And because all Robert knew about this game was that I wanted to play it and I was terrified of playing it. And then I kept saying, we're all going to die an awful lot. And that I was very apprehensive about it. And that it was really hard. Because we're kind of casual board gamers. Games above a certain weight, we usually just don't even bother with because it's like, unless we've seen videos that will tell us that gameplay is going to be an enjoyable experience or that we're not going to be frustrated and unhappy, you know, I mean, we tend to go for kind of more midweight games or games that is not going to just kill us over and over and over again. Yeah, but that does happen sometimes in co-op games. We're most likely to die in co-op games. Co-op games can be very brutal. They're in some ways much harder than competitive games. So I laid it out on the table and I sorted out a few things and I checked the Dized app. I have the Dized app and started up the tutorial and it was going through setup and I'm going like, okay, that sounds good. We'll run it back to the beginning. But first I wanted to show Robert the videos. So go to the source, Rodney Smith at Watch It Played. I had seen all of these. He had not. So I ran the how to play video. And at the end of it, Robert said, I think that is the longest video I have ever seen on the Watch It Play channel for how to play a game. It was like 45 minutes. But it didn't put him off. He actually said at the end of watching all the thing that it looked better than cribbage. You know, it's like, wow, it's like I would rather play that than cribbage. That just looks it because the game it has this logic to it. It's very straightforward. It has a pretty good logical consistency and the if-thens seem like they follow on pretty well. And then we watched Rodney and his friend Pep did a playthrough of the first scenario, which is Castaways. And they did it in 3 parts, and at the end of each part, they would ask the viewers to help them make decisions about how to go on from there. And I mean, I think all 3 parts together came to less than an hour. They did not last long. It was, as I said, brutal. But we watched it, and it was also really hilarious. It is a highly entertaining video. If you want an entertaining playthrough video of Robinson Crusoe that, you know, that I would highly recommend it. I'll put a link to both his, the Watch It Played's How to Play, and also part 1 of their playthrough, which is pretty entertaining and gets more entertaining as the game goes on. But Robert said he's up for it. I had actually thought that this was one of those games that I would be fascinated with, and he would just not be terribly keen on, but he would be a good sport about it and hold my hand as I went through and got brutally killed by wild animals. But he's up for it. He thinks it looks neat and interesting and fun, and he's curious about it for maybe the same reasons that I'm curious about it. So stay tuned, as the old saying goes. We're going to try to get to this next weekend. We've got some other stuff going next weekend, and it's spring, so there's gardening stuff going out in the backyard. But yeah, Robinson Crusoe looks like it's a better bet for us than Cribbage. But we haven't counted Cribbage out yet. And I do want to say, for those of you that kind of are all about the new hotness, we are really not about the hotness. We tend to play, we get to older games and they're new for us. Actually, this past weekend, we played games that are actually that are somewhat more older games than what we normally do. We do have new stuff in there that we are playing. But don't count old games out. Old games have stuck around for a reason. I mean, there are a ton of card games from hundreds of years ago that are basically just referenced in old Victorian novels or Regency novels or whatever. It's like you find them in historical literature mentioned in passing because nobody plays them anymore, because they've been supplanted by better games, maybe better games that are kind of variations on that game. So don't count old games out, because there's like some really interesting stuff that are old historical games. I mean, my goodness, look how long chess has been going. So I'm not counting Cribbage out yet. I'm just saying that it's maybe not an easy game to get into if you didn't already have some kind of a background in Cribbage. Like if you hadn't already seen it played or played it with someone. But we're still going to hang on to it, make another pass at it, see if maybe we can find someone who knows how to play it, who can explain it to us as we go. But this, we're going to make a shot at it next weekend, or possibly the weekend after that. And I have another video that I would like to make, actually between now and the Robinson Crusoe video, because I've been doing this for over 6 months now, which nobody is more surprised than me, unless it's my friends and family. And I thought I would do like another little introductory video, because there's been new people that have piled on. Hi, new people. And tell them who I am and what the heck I'm doing here, which I'm sure some of you have been wondering. And that's about it for this past weekend, and I'll have some interesting stuff coming up. It's been really good sitting here talking to you around the table, and I'll see you next time around the table. It's been fun.